what's up? It's been a while. I'm Hikikomori. This is my stream here. That you are listening to was a mix I did for a band called Sunwise. A bunch of my buddies in there. But the song's called McGarnagle. And today I wanted to kind of take a look into some of the mix techniques I used while mixing this, because I thought it might help a few people out. I mean, I can't say that I'm the best mixer in the world, but I feel like I do alright, and I could probably teach some people a few things, so I figured I'd break it down. It's been a while since I streamed. I actually went out to the Midwest to hang out with some people, Sunwise included, and went to go play my buddy Neil's annual Memorial Day party that he calls Jaegerfest. It's not named after the drink. It's because Neil's name is Jaeger. But he's been doing it for like 13 years, I think, now, and it's just a blast every year. So even though I live on the East Coast now, I took the time to go back out there. And I actually got to play my first real live set, like in front of people outdoors, as Hikikomori. So that was a lot of fun. And I want to thank Neil for having me out there, and everybody for listening and all that. So yeah, it was a good time. But I also saw a bunch of other bands out there. My buddy Isaac's band, Winder, got the shirt on right here. They were kicking ass out there. Sunwise I saw. Etlin's Island was out there. I got to see them live. They were great. Who else? Vaudevillains, Acme Principle, Deconstructing Gym, Reformed, and played. I hope I'm not missing everybody, but I think that was everybody. So if you're the one band I forgot, I'm sorry. So yeah, I did that. And I actually have video. If you go to the YouTube page, which you can click on, there's a YouTube thing down beneath my stream. It actually has live footage from that, which actually I could probably show a little bit of it because it is all my content. Why don't we pull that up? It'll be fun. Lots of fun. Mandatory fun. Here we go. So, all we have to do is go to youtube.hikikomorimusic.com. And you'll see this page. This is where I keep all the recordings of the old streams that fall off of the Twitch page, because eventually they do fall off. They don't stay there forever, so if you want to watch me make the entire EP, which is Natural Beauty, it's out now, here's episode 1. This is the first Twitch stream I ever did. And you can tell because it looks way horrible. I don't even think I say anything. It's just like a little webcam of me. But yeah, I just had this one like beat. And that turned into I'm Yours. Yeah, this is all I had. But anyway, so here's that Jaegerfest video.
Oh, Neil has something to say, obviously.
This is Colin.
Thank you, Neil.
That's Neil, of course.
The original dude.
I don't know where a good song is. I was pretty nervous at first, especially like singing in front of all those people, so but I think I pulled it off pretty well. People seemed to tell me I did well, so I was happy about that. But nothing crashed. Like, I was super afraid my computer was gonna crash because I don't know if you can see on stage, but like it's a bunch of, you know, super awesome analog gear, and I was kind of giving people crap with my little PowerBook rig. So it would have been pretty funny if my stuff just totally quit working. But yeah. But yeah, you can check that out on the YouTube page if you want. It was, like I said, it was a blast. I recommend going if you could find it. So what else? So yeah, now I'm back. The other thing tonight I want to show you guys is like I totally reset my my live studio-ish room, because you saw it before if you came to the EP release show that I did on the 18th. You saw I had like a little bit of a setup going with the lights and the ceiling and all that, but now I put like all my drums over there and all my other keyboards and stuff, and I've made this like circle. Is my old friend, or my still friend Isaac, who's happy birthday Isaac. I keep looking down here because the camera used to be down here. Now I have to look up there. But yeah, he dubbed my my audio station when we were touring with Withershins. He always called it Tashi Station, so after the Star Wars thing. But now like Tosh Station is a Tashi. I don't even know how to say it. I'm not a good Star Wars nerd. I think it's Tashi Station, but it has grown immensely, and I'm really excited to show you some of the tricks I have in store. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome for doing streams because like I have all my instruments together. Here, I can actually show you right now. Or at least I think I can. Hold on, let me see. I got a couple cameras mounted. Oh yeah, here's one of the cams. Alright. So you can see I got my drums, I got my guitars, I got like my two like vintage analog keyboards back there, and then well, I got another angle too. And then here you can see the drums, and then I got my laptop that's running main stage, and that actually runs everything in that little room there. And then all my guitars are going through that, my keyboard's going through that, all the drums go through it. And I got that drum pad too, but it's gonna be awesome because everything's like MIDI linked. It's really gonna help writing, I think, because I'm just gonna be able to fly from instrument to instrument, and then I'll have all my tones in main stage already since I'm writing with it, and then I won't have to like try to recreate my tones when I do live stuff. So it's gonna be a win-win. And then the other little fun thing I have is, you probably saw this if you came to the stream before, or the release show, but I got these lights that I can control. Boom. So yeah, I got all sorts of toys we're gonna play with. Right now, like the lights look all shitty because I got my regular old lights on. But anyways, so that's some of the stuff to come. I think you guys are really gonna dig it. But for now, let's focus on this mix because that's what this video is supposed to be about. So we're gonna dig into this song, McGarnagle. So it's definitely a rocker. Turn this down for a second. Yeah, definitely a rock song. And I really wanted the low end to kick on this one because this type of rock is all about like just the bass and low end and really making it sound heavy and just have some feeling and weight behind it, you know. So I guess we'll just start off with the drums, and I'll show you a couple of things I did with the drums. Here's all my drums and their subgroups. So what I do is I take, these are the tracks I got for drums originally. You can see like 1, 2, 3, 4 through all the way through 8 there. So I got two kicks, 2 snares, rack, floor, tom, then 2 overheads. So pretty typical, you know, allotment of what you'll get with any drum mix. Actually just have these tracks frozen, so let me unfreeze these. So we're gonna want to see what we did. Hopefully that won't send my CPU screaming. But yeah, so how I have these routed is, alright, here's my 2 kick tracks, right? So I have those going to 15, and then if you look here, so in Pro Tools, this is where the routing is, by this little I/O thing. So this is where it comes in. We're not concerned with any of that right now, because we're not recording anymore, so we're only concerned with the output. So the output right here is bus 15, and then if you look at the input here, this is kick. So this is just an alternate track that I basically just mix these 2 tracks into, and I use plugins on those ones, and then like if I have a plugin I want to put on both of them, I won't just like, you know, duplicate the plugin. I'll just put it on this track so it covers both of them. And then yeah, so then, you know, I have an easier mix with just 4 faders instead of all this stuff, because my overheads I can combine to 1 fader, toms I can combine to 1 fader, same with the 2 snare tracks, the 2 kick tracks. So that's another pretty typical practice you'll see when you're mixing in DAWs or anywhere. Like if you have an analog console, it'd be probably called a group, or if you have a nice analog console, it's a VCA, which is just like an electronically control. It's old analog console shit. Oh, got some in my stash. All right. So like I said, that really helps. And then I have all 4 of these going into my drums master fader here. So you see these all spit out 11 and 12. They come in 11 and 12 right here. Then you'll also see I have another fader called drums comp. So this is getting the 13 and 14. So I don't have... Most of these I've directly, you know, running into these other faders, but the 13 and 14 I have on sends. So basically what this allows me to do is basically just, I set up, you know, this mix first of, you know, these 5 faders basically. The only thing I really use this for is when I'm mixing with the rest of the tracks. But usually I'll just put it like 0 and leave it and then mix off these 4. And then I was using this as a frequency analyzer to see what the drums were doing as a whole. But yeah, so that's my main drums mix. But then this 13-14 deal is I'll just send a little bit more of the kick or a little bit more of the snare into this heavily compressed fader. And what I'm doing is a thing called parallel compression, which is super old news, like everybody's done it trick. But basically all you do is you have your clean drums, and then you take a duplicate of that basically, or you know what I'm doing where you just put a little bit of what you want into it to taste. But basically what you're doing is making a duplicate of that and then compressing the crap out of that, and then you mix that in like a little bit with your normal drum track. So here, let's listen to some of this stuff. So we'll just solo out the drum. Let me find a good drum section here. Loop this for a while. So I have these 2 tracks, the drums and the drums comp track. So here's nothing. And this is just the clean drums here. So here, I'm going to go through and mute all these bass tracks. We can kind of go through and hear what I'm doing from the, you know, the ground level here. So here's the kick in, which is probably just, you know, regular old forget what the hell the mic is, like a D112 or whatever the Shure one is. I can't remember. Of 52, I believe. Yeah. Oh, and I should mention that this was all tracked by good old Billy William at Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois. I have their link scrolling down there along with Sunwise's on the banner. So if you're ever, if you need any recording services done, you're around the Chicago area or the Joliet area, definitely check out Third City Sound because they have a great place to track and record there. And Bill will set you up right. Bill Aldridge is who you're looking for. But this is where this was tracked, and he sent me over this. It was already mixed pretty well. Like it's great when you get like something that's tracked by somebody else, and you throw up all the faders to 0, and it's like pretty much a song already. Like because sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you'll get like stuff that you throw everything up to 0 and it's just super unbalanced. You know, whoever like worked on it probably doesn't really know what they're doing, or it's always a good sign when you get that balance right away. So anyways, so here's that kick. Here, I'll turn all these plugins off. And I gotta turn these ones off too. Alright, so this is what I had. Oh, here. If I kill all this stuff. Oh, I gotta remember that one wasn't on. So this is what I had my bass kick in mic sounds like. It's pretty quiet, but that's because I have all the master bus stuff off, so I'll turn this stuff back on. I mean, it's obviously already unnatural sounding from what it was, but I don't want to have to keep turning these on and off. So, yeah, here's our kick in. So you can hear, it's nice and punchy already. Like, it's always cool when you, like, all I want to hear, or, like, what I know is a good, like, kick, is when I hear the click, and I hear some of the low end, too. And this one has it right off the bat, so that's really nice. So as you can see, I didn't really have to do much with the EQ. I just basically took out a little bit of 200, which I do a lot because a lot of things have too much 200. And you can see I don't really do a lot of drastic EQing unless I have to. So there's only like 2.5 out at 200. Here, there's with it back in. And see, hear how it's just kind of boxy sounding. And that's with it out. Sounds a little bit better. I like that. And then I saw it was probably had a little bit of a peak at 120, so I enhanced that a little bit. Here's without it. And with it. So just a little bit more low end punch. And then I just kind of brought the range of high mids up just to kind of give it a little bit more click, because that's really important, especially on small speakers when you're not going to hear that low end. The reason you know there's still a kick, and like what the brain does is the reason you know that there's a kick there is still because there's that high mid click. And what your brain can do is your brain's so conditioned to know what a kick drum sounds like is it hears that click and it kind of fills in the rest automatically for you, which is a weird brain trick because brains are crazy. But that's why like you can hear music on smaller speakers and like it can still sound big almost. The brain does a lot of weird stuff like that, especially like visual stuff. But anyways, but yeah, it's important to have that click. That's basically what I'm saying, or trying to say. So yeah, I just did that little bit of EQ makeup there. Nothing we had to like repair or anything. Like I said, Bill does a great job. So, then I saw that. I mean, it's really probably compressed enough already. So you can see the peaks really consistent, a little slow there, but I mean, so I saw that, and naturally my deal is I want to just compress the crap out of everything, because that's what I do. Although I'm trying not to these days. So if you see on this, I'm only compressing about 3 dB. Just trying to get a little more consistent with every hit. Because I don't really replace with samples or anything like that. So I really gotta get it consistent. So here, this is without the compressor. This is with. Like, it's really subtle. If anything, it's making it quieter. I mean, I only put like a 1 dB of gain back into it, so it probably won't even sound better when you A/B it. Yeah, it sounds like way fuller if I take this off, but that's kind of another trick. You gotta, like, your ear's always gonna think whatever's louder sounds better. So you gotta be aware of that when you're A/Bing through plugins and stuff. And then, okay, so I ran through another compressor. So that's my other thing I've been doing is like multiple compressors. And like, if I want to like compress something 20, what's a multiple of 3? 18 dB. Like, instead of doing one compressor at 18 dB, I'm going to do like 3 compressors at 6 dB or something. That's my new layering compressors is what I've been finding success with. So that's something I do here. So this will probably be another, yeah, right around that 3. And I just liked how this one kind of shortened it up a bit. It really shapes the transient of that kick drum in a way I like. Although it does bring up a lot of high end. I'm actually hearing things now that I'm listening to it on headphones more. Yeah. If I noticed that before, I probably would have done something like this. Just to mask that high-end stuff a little bit and keep the click. But whatever. We're not here to remix this. And then the final thing is I just added a little bit more EQ. So it looks like some more low-end boost around the 80 range. Just 3 dB. Took out a little more 200. And then added a little bit of 4K. So basically the same EQ I was doing here, except a different low-end band. And this is with it. This is without. With. Without. So this is with all of them. This is without him. Then you'll notice I have this bus that, to be honest, I'm not sure where the hell it's going. Yeah, I don't even see a channel with the input of 21 on it, so it might be going to some sort of side chain. No, not there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Alright, so that's the kick in channel. Here's the kick out. This one caught a lot of... Oh, I know what I was trying to do. I think I was trying to gate this thing at one point with this bus 21. So what that would be is like I have this kick out, and I knew if I gated it with the side chain of the kick in mic, because the kick in mic has none of this outside ambient stuff, like all the cymbals, and you can hear the hi-hat really good. Here, I'll explain what I'm talking about. It's much easier to explain. And you'll probably hear why I didn't go with it too. So dynamics, and then just pick any gate. Any gate plugin should have this sort of deal. So what I can do is go in here, bus 21, and then sidechain, turn that on. So now this gate is only going to open when the kick in this other track happens. Here. Like, if I click this little button here, you can hear the first track that it's keying off of. I think I ultimately just decided it wasn't natural sounding enough. Because, yeah, what you get is that cymbal that just comes on and off. Like that weird gated cymbal sound every kick hit. It just sounds weird, so... Yeah, I guarantee that's what I was trying to do, and I just never finished doing it. So here, you can hear what the kick out tracks adds. Just everything sounds a little more 3D and in depth, and it has a little bit of low end to it. So I don't have a lot of it in there, just enough. And then this is something I notice a lot of people not doing. That, I don't know, it's more of a acoustic recording thing. And that's checking phase on drums. So anytime you're doing drums, you always want to check the phase between them, especially when you have two mics on one drum. So we have kick in, kick out. So here's my phase selector here. So if I leave this is how the tracks were shipped to me, like just like this. So if I leave it if I don't flip the phase, you hear how it's a little bit, we lose something. You hear that all that low end that just came back as soon as I put that in. Boom. Then back out. See how you lose that low end? And a lot of times if it's really badly phasing out, you'll hear like kind of a hollow, mid-rangey noise. It'll sound really weird or ghostly, or sometimes it'll sound like it's on the edges of your like headphones, like it's almost behind you or something. Any of that kind of stuff, you're hearing phasing between two tracks. And what happens is basically all sounds are kind of like a, you know, I don't want to say a sine wave, but a wave. And if you get two waves that like perfectly cancel each other out, like you have one wave that's going up on its, because a normal sine wave goes up and then down, right? Everybody's seen that. So if you have two tracks that have, you know, the same information, but it's just delayed just enough so your up wave is also clashing with the down wave of another track, what happens is it'll perfectly cancel each other out and you won't hear anything. Which here I can explain, or I can actually show you. So let me just take this one kick out track right here. We're just going to duplicate it just as it is. And we're just going to have these two tracks, right? So here they are. Both the phases are set to normal right now. So I'm going to flip one of the phases. And then you'll see that the meters, they'll still have volume, but all of a sudden you're not going to hear anything. So here you go. There it goes. Still metering. It's still outputting volume, but when it hits the actual speaker, they're completely canceling each other out with phase. So what happens is when you get, you know, like a kick in and a kick out mic, it's not going to perfectly cancel each other out because they're not the exact duplicates of the, you know, audio information that's coming together, but they're really close because they're the same instrument. So you'll kind of get a weird hollowy, phasey sound, or sometimes it's really subtle, like in this case. I just hear a little bit more low end when I flip the phase on the out mic. Oops, no, I don't want to duplicate. I want to delete. Boom. All right. So always check the phase on your drums. So there's our kick sound. And I'm actually going to throw these back in. These are just, or no, I shouldn't do that actually. So there's our 2 tracks that make up our kick sound. Kick out, kick in. They combine with the plugins we put there and this mix ratio with more kick in than kick out, which is typical. And then they go to this track here. And then I'm adding some more EQ. Actually, a lot of EQ in this guy. So I'm dumping everything below 35 hertz, which is really low. We don't need that. I'm adding 3 dB around the 80 mark again. I'm taking out 3 dB around 400. Adding some 2K in. That's without it. That's with it. And then I'm adding a bunch of high end. For more of that click, so that's without it. That's with it. So at this point we have a big beefy kick drum, you know, it sounds really modern. And then I've been doing this with a lot of my drums lately. I just add a just tiny bit of like room verb on it, just to make it sound a little bit more, I don't know, bigger. This is without it. Oh shit, I'm not paying attention to chat. So that's without it, and then that's with it. A little bit of that, I don't know, tennis ball feel or something, or basketball on a court. Oh my god, where's my window? Oh, it's Field Processor. What's up, guys? Oh, you guys heard the EP. That's awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Bass guitars could do that too. Sure, anything that's in your low end range. But yeah, actually, I never really checked the bass guitar though. I should actually start doing that. That's a good idea. Oh, Whack It and Exome. How is everybody? I didn't even notice everybody was here. I'm like so into my mix dissection here. And yeah, I'm totally addicted to Scene of Action. Part of it's just because like he took every idea I was like thought I had first and totally did it, and it looks awesome. So, but I can't wait to start doing a little bit of my own live performances. All right, so let's get on with this. Take it forever. So here's the snare. Here, turn the kick tracks off. So here's the snare top. It's where we're going to get most of our sound. And again, I was having some phase issues. Oh, this is what I was doing with the... Oh shit, I shouldn't have deleted that. Why would I be... Okay, well apparently I was sidechain compressing the bottom snare track with the kick, which I'm not exactly sure why I did, but it's there, leaving it in the mix. So anyways, yeah. Alright, so here's the snare tracks. Flip and phase. Yeah, there's a little bit more low mid in this configuration, I think. That's why I went with that. Although it's really subtle, I don't even think it makes that much of a difference. So again, a lot of the drums I kind of EQ the same. It's just the typical Smile stuff. I took out everything below 80 on this guy because you don't really need a lot of low end on your snare. Like everything in your snare typically resides around like 180, 200, somewhere around there. So it's like what I do in this guy. So it sounds really thin, kind of wimpy. Put that 200 in there. All of a sudden it's like boom. And then I got just a little bit of a boost around 8K, it looks like. But it's a pretty wide boost, so. It's for a little bit more high end to get it to pop out of the mix a bit. Again, typical, we're just doing some compression. Looks like I'm hitting this one fairly hard, like 6 dB. Kind of like it either way, to be honest. But it's nice when you get everything going at once. Like, things will sound great when they're soloed out like this. And then they get in the mix and they'll get lost, and you really just need something like a little bit more compression than you're used to get them to stick out. And then looks like I did some post compression EQ. Same deal. A little bit 200, a little bit 8K. Turn all these plugins off. Here, turn that snare bottom off. So this is just the naked snare top. So as you can hear, it's a little dull. It's not gonna have that high-end shimmer. So that's largely what we added with those. And then turn the snare bottom on. You get a little more of that snap, the snap of the snares. I'm sure what I'm accenting with this EQ here. And again, we're taking out a bunch of the, I high passed it all the way to 112 here, so with the snare bottom, like, you don't really need much of that. And then looks like the same sort of compressor settings I used on the other one. So we get all that, and then I got all this dirty and saturators down here. So let me turn this stuff off. You can hear what it does. Okay, so yeah. Without it, the snare automatically gets way thinner. So this first one is a saturation plugin. All these plugins are either free or come with Pro Tools, by the way. This one's the Klinghelm. I forget who it's by. I'm sure it says somewhere. I'm clicking. What if I click Control click, Alt click? No, okay, fine. Google Klinghelm compressor, I'm sure it'll come up, or saturator, or whatever the hell it is. So what it does is just adds a little bit of dirt, basically. You have this drive, which is basically just the volume of the thing. And, well, the gain of it, I guess. The output's more the volume. This asymmetrical mix, it just, I find it kind of gets a little mid-boosty all the way up, which is great for the snare, so that's why I did that. And then the same thing with this one, it's kind of a tone control. This is a little too crispy for me, so I kept it pretty low. Because I just kind of wanted like a low mid growl. So that's without, or with, that's without. So it does a lot. And it does some compression on its own, you can definitely tell. But any saturator is going to kill a little bit of transient and all that. So we did that, and then I did the same kind of reverb I do on drums. Just a little bit of room. And a little bit of EQ. A little bit of that 200 area boost. A little more at 250. So just a wide low mid boost, basically. And then some snare crack at 5K. Just a little bit of boost there, too. Without, it's without, it's with. And then looks like I doubled up on the reverb, which, you know, is typical for snares. A lot of times they'll have a little bit more reverb than the rest of the drums. But overall, these are still pretty dry drums in the grand scheme of things. So there's your kick and snare. I'll look at the meters a lot and make sure these are hitting similar. And then this is just the clean track set. I can also add, here's the comp track with it. Just gives a little more punch. This without. This with. I hear it most on the snare. And again, this track is, here, we'll just listen to the compressed track. As you can hear, it's like, it's not like super pounding, it's actually like sucking a lot of the transients in. It's more about that poof that comes after the hit. Yeah, so here, I have this, oh, Klanghill must be the company who makes these. Not the X, because that other one said Klanghill too. So Google Klanghill effects. You'll find what you need. But yeah, these are all free, and I like this compressor. It has a lot of character to it, which is nice. So I got this thing going. It's in deep mode actually, so it's kind of getting. I think that means it catches a little bit more of the lows in sort of like a multi-band sort of configuration. I'm not sure. There's probably a user manual somewhere. Somebody should read it. But yeah, it's like taking about 6 off. What the hell is this thing? I don't think I've ever used this plugin before. Oh, apparently it's a compressor. Doesn't seem to be doing much. So there's that. And then I got the old BF76 here. The emulation of, well, an 1176, which is an old analog compressor that's in basically every old analog studio. Because they were used all over the friggin' place. So I have it in like all the buttons pushed in mode, so it's doing tons of compression. By time, I mean, it's only metering up to like 7, but for me that's a lot. So this is without it. So yeah, it sounds pretty crappy on its own, but when you add it in, like this is without it, this is with. I think it adds something. What's important to do is if you have a DAW that doesn't have delay compensation, you can't do this parallel stuff because it'll end up just phasing out because you're using different plugins and different channels, and they have, you know, tiny amounts of latency. So you either need to have a DAW that does delay compensation like mine. This is Pro Tools. You can see I have delay compensation checked here. I think pretty much every modern DAW does it now. Pro Tools is probably one of the later ones to add it for their cheap versions, but you just, yeah, you gotta pay attention, because otherwise it'll sound really weird. Another thing you can do if you don't have delay compensation is just, or what everybody used to use Pro Tools used to do, is you just, you know, if you added a plugin, like say you put an EQ plugin on the non-compressed track, you would just put the same plugin over here. That was supposed to be an alt track. There we go. You put the same one over here and then just bypass it, so that way you'd get the same latency on every track, or on both tracks, but you'd only have the plugins affecting the tracks you'd want, if that makes any sense. But luckily, or hopefully, you'll have a DAW that has delay compensation. You don't have to worry about that. Anyways, So kick and snare, that's pretty much your drum sound, right? Like, this is what's important in rock drums, kicks and snares. We can just add in the rest for some sugar on top here. So I have the overheads coming. I actually didn't even affect them on the individual tracks. We'll turn these up. So now I got my cymbals. And then they're coming in through this channel here. So good. We'll get rid of that. And yeah, coming through the overhead channel. We can look. So same studio reverb I had on the other drums. I mean, I'm sure I'd probably dicked with it a little bit, but same sort of room sound. Well, this one has 5 on the decay, which is a bit more than the other ones. And then I have this compressor, like I said, with the character. Here's without it. Here's with it. Just kind of keeping the cymbals in line. And then, yeah, I got this EQ going. I'm just pulling out some, looks like 450-ish. So it probably just sounded a little boxy. Turn this off. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty I can't really even hear what it's doing, to be honest. And then I got a ton of gain up high. So that's one thing I like this plugin for the Slick EQ. It's another free plugin. I really like what it does in the high end. So if I have a lot of high end boosting, if I want to like make something, you know, sparkly sounding or whatever, like this, you know, overheads is like time. You'll do that a lot. I'm using this guy here. So then we just add in the toms. There they were, right there. Now I'm not doing anything weird for panning. The overheads are straight left and right, and then the toms I have, you know, 50. So like half, 50% left, 50% right. And I mean, these drums were just a regular old kick, snare, tom-tom ride crash kit. Nothing crazy here. And those toms, I'm sure I got actually got a lot of verb on them. Let's find a good tom part. There we go. So I got a bunch of reverb on them, but cool to put reverb on toms because they sound like big ass war drums. That's what you need to go for. Big ass war drums. That is not the right channel. Go looking at toms. So I have that reverb, and it looks like I just did a bit of EQ here. Yeah, just a little bit of low end, just more war drum. A little bit of that smack. You can really hear the stick hitting the drum with that, you know. So yeah, just 100% bloody war murder. That's what you want with your drum sound, I believe. And that's it. Let me turn this loop off. So actually, yeah, I thought I did a little more tricky stuff with the drums, but this is pretty typical stuff. The only real trick I did was the parallel compression. And like I said, everybody kind of does that. It's old news. So yeah, I guess one of the things people do usually with parallel compression is they'll just take a duplicate of this like main track. So I did it a little bit different, where I just took, you know, individual sends from my subgroup tracks here. So I'm adding, like, I'm not putting any overheads in this compressed track, because basically if there's overheads in there, it's just going to sound a bunch like washy cymbals and stuff, and you don't need all that junk. Basically, it's the same like when I used to mix live, we'd always have like a subwoofer that went off an aux send, because you don't want like cymbals and you're going to your subwoofers and stuff. It's basically just audio management, because you're working on these huge speaker systems with like tons of subs and tons of mid speakers. And like when you're working on a giant speaker system like that, it'll be like either a three-way system, which means you're gonna have your subs, your lows and mids will be in one speaker, and then your high-end tweeters will be another, and that's your threes. But with even bigger systems like arena systems and stuff, or line arrays, there'll be 4 ways or even 5 ways sometimes, and then you'll have your number one is your tweeters. Then you'll have like high mid-ish kind of speakers, which are like 8-inch speakers or something like that. That'll cover all your high mid. So there's 1 and 2, and then 3 is your low mid speakers, which is your big ass like 18-inch speakers, or like 15s maybe, and that'll cover everything from like 100 or like 80 to like, I don't know what the crossover point is, 600, who knows. It's been a while. But yeah, you'll have 4 crossovers basically. That's what it means by 4-way. And then you'll have your subs, which is anything from 40 to 80 or 40 to like 100. And basically what we used to do is you didn't want all that, you wanted to be really controlled on what you sent to your subwoofers, because it's really easy to blow up subwoofers, and it's really expensive and time consuming to scrape out voice coils with a friggin' business card and tape. But anyways, so yeah, we, instead of just taking the crossover point, we used to just select exactly what we wanted to send to our subs with an aux send. And we'd always, just do kick, bass, guitar, and that's the same principle I'm doing with this parallel compression. So I'm just sending kick, snare, and toms. And I'm keeping out all this high-end stuff that we don't need. That's going to sound weird and set off the compressor all weird. So yeah, that's my drum sound. Let's listen to it with the track. Yeah, field. Basically, yeah, it was just kick in, kick out, snare top, snare bottom, then rack tom, floor tom, then overhead left, overhead right. Those are the 8 tracks I got from the tracking engineer. And then, yeah, I just sent up those 4 subgroups myself to just simplify mixing. I love using subgroups for stuff because, well, number one, it saves you a lot of plug-in power, because you don't have to put like the same stupid plug-in on every drum track if I'm using it across every track. I just put it on the subgroup, and it kind of glues stuff together too when you use plugins like that. And then yeah, I just sent that all to the one drum bus, the one master drum bus here. So all these get into the yellow ones, and then the yellow ones all go to drums. And then I used an aux send to take these 3 tracks. It looks like I sent them all at 0. Yeah. And those make up this drums comp track, and then those mix together and give me my sound. So basically the things that are going to the master mix, you'll see the out 1, 2, are just these 2 tracks. So when I'm doing my master mix, I'm just looking at those 2 tracks, and they're actually grouped up, I'm sure. Yeah, if I look here, they're on, drums too. So I bet if I grab this fader, it was at -17, and so if I move this, see how it moves both faders. So basically I'm sort of manually subgrouping it again to one fader of drums that I hit when I'm doing my actual mix. How do you decide to add plugs effects? Where do you choose original mic versus I gotta think about it in ways of like, what am I gonna add? Like, just to the like, what do I just want to affect the one? I mean, that sounds stupid when I say it out loud. But a lot of times what I'm doing is, all right, when a drum track, especially my first EQ is going to be a corrective EQ. Luckily, Billy Aldridge, the guy who recorded these, is really good, so I didn't have to do a lot of corrective EQing. At this point, I wouldn't call it corrective EQing. I'd call it just more shaping. Let me get to some actual. So I have, my corrective, which is basically, corrective shaping. I say that because I always do an EQ, and then I'm probably hitting a compressor, or two compressors in this case, and then I'm hitting a post-compression EQ. And what I want to do with the pre-compression EQ is just make the track compressor ready. Because if you have if I take this thing, I just jack the shit out of the lows, and then I hit the compressor, what the compressor is compressing at that point is just your big peak of low end bullshit that you put in there. And it's not compressing the highs smoothly. It's just chopping off that low end because that's what you sent at it. So what I want to do with that first EQ is, like, a lot of times I'll stare at like one of these little cheater analyzer screens. Let me solo all this crap out real quick. Schmutz all around. Alright, so here's that track. I'll turn everything off. So here's what I'm looking at, which is a big mound of low end, basically. I don't know why it's not registering higher on here. I feel like something is wrong, but whatever. So when I apply this EQ, see how I got a little bit more high end and stuff. And when I hit this compressor, you're going to see, hopefully, this stuff balance out a little bit more. Which it really doesn't seem to be doing visually and isn't proving my point at all. So let me try this other one on. Okay, well, you see this kind of shrinking and this one's growing a little bit. But that's what I mean, like, so I'll hit that corrective EQ to really try to balance the frequency range out before I hit the compressor, because you want your compressor to compress smoothly. You don't want it to be jumpy. That's like another reason I layer compressors. I'll put like my corrective compressors, which would be like, just chopping off the extreme peaks. Like, I don't want it to add my like, there's a difference between a compressor that has character that you add because it like adds, analog warmth or whatever buzzword you want to throw in, or like a tube sound or whatever. Like, that's something you'd use at the end of your compressor chain, and you don't want to throw crazy like transients at it, or stuff that's going to be like super loud and then super soft. You want everything hitting that compressor to be like already compressed, basically, because that's not what you're trying to do with like a character compressor. Like, you're trying to do that earlier in the chain with compressors that can lop off a lot of volume without adding any character. It almost sounds like invisible. So that's like what you would do with that sort of compressor. I mean, there's a lot. Compression gets so. It's an art form, But I do that same thing with like the EQ. So like the EQ and like the first compressor is kind of like just preparing it for that real compressor that I'm going to put on that I really like the sound of, that really changes my tone and makes a awesome sounding track. And then after you're done compressing there and you have your nice level track, that's when you can add some stuff like high-end boost, where you do your post-compression EQ and stuff. Like, so that's where I'll like add a little bit of low end back, or a little, because that character compressor, while it's gonna it's gonna balance everything down as much as it can, so you're gonna have a really even frequency response at the end of it if you did everything right. So a lot of times in your mix, you don't want an even frequency response all the time. A lot of times you'll want something to like really stick out in like the 4K range or something, so it breaks through the mix. So that's what you would do with your post-compression EQ. So this is a lot of stuff that I would do on single tracks, especially for drums. but I used a lot of the same concepts everywhere. And then, so like I do that kind of thing with my kick drums, or like you'll do utility shit on single tracks, like gating, de-essing, stuff like that. Any corrective stuff where you're trying to fix the track instead of making it sound better. That's an important thing to realize, is you have to know when you're mixing whether you're trying to fix something at the moment, like you're either trying to like, yeah, correct it, or you're trying to like add something to make it sound better. And there's a big difference. Like a lot of times when you're fixing things, you're using subtractive EQ. You're cutting things. You don't want to make big boosts in order to like make something that sounds weird better. You want to take the weirdness out, and then like after you do that, then add a little bit of low or high or whatever it needs at that point after it's already balanced. So I think you could probably get the point. Going on about this forever, but yeah, that's kind of how I decide where at what point to add my plugins. And then a lot of times when I'm doing, like, I'll pretty much always do drums first. Drums, bass, and vocal are like the three things I usually try to mix first, because, you know, all the old adages, they make the foundation of the music, or whatever the fuck. So, but really what it is with drums, you're defining your super lows with your kick drum, and you're defining your super high end with the cymbal wash and the hi-hats and all that. So when you do drums first, you're basically just making your scope, your EQ range, and then that's why it's easy to mix in from there, because really you're not going to have anything that's, you know, more sparkly than your hi-hats or cymbals. I mean, the bass, sometimes you'll have the bass guitar will be a little bit lower than your kick drum, depending on how you want to marry those two, but that's the reasoning behind doing those first. And also, like, the kick and the snare are super important in rock songs, so that's another reason why I do them first, because, like, I always make sure my kick and snare, usually I don't have all this shit going yet. So, yeah, like, I'll want them to land, you know, down, like, 10, -5, 10, just so I have some headroom to play with. Although you can have them landing down here at the beginning of your mix, that's perfectly fine, too. Because you can always bring it back up. The thing you don't want to do is get yourself cramped, stuck in a corner, by not leaving yourself enough headroom on the master bus when you start out. That is a no-no. Alright, so let's listen to the bass here. So, this bass guitar came with, I think it was originally 3 tracks, and then I actually separated out one of them because the part's so different. I wanted to treat it differently. Wait, at the end of the song. Oh no, I just lost all my volume. Oh, there we go. Alright. Actually, that was a great question, field processor things. So yeah, let me see. We got, it looks like I muted off one of these tracks, so really we're not even using this guy. Just ditch him. So yeah, 3 bass tracks. And again, I'm kind of grouping them up here, so. And really we're only using 2, because this third one only happens at the very end. And looks like we have the typical combination that you'll get with most engineers who do bass. They'll send you a DI track, which is what we're listening to right now, and then an amp track. Like, they'll put a mic in front of the amp. And usually you get, a little bit more of the growler. Especially if you have a pedal on your bass or effects or whatever. A lot of times it'll come through on the amp track, but not the DI track, because you'll put the DI before all the pedals. And that's because, like, your, pure DI bass signal will have a lot of low end, like super low end. And that's great when it comes to mix time. and you need that. So as you hear, that's those combined. Adds a little bit versus just the regular signal. It doesn't look like I'm doing much to the bass. I have a compressor that's actually pretty much a limiter at this point. Well, no, I'm only hitting it a 2.5 to 1 ratio. That's not even a lot. I just have the threshold way down, so it's always kind of just riding it. I mean, you can hear it's pretty consistent. And I'm just putting a bunch of gain back since I'm, taking out almost 12. This is without it. This is with it. So you can hear that just that when he hits those long ringing notes, they stick around for a lot longer with that compressor. It looks like I did... Oh, I shouldn't have clicked this. It actually didn't take that long. So it looks like I was trying amplitude at some point, but I turned it off. And I had a trim in here, which is just a volume. So, but I have those off. So all I'm really doing is compressing the signal I was given, and then mixing in some of this amped signal, which I'm doing the same exact compression to, it looks like. That's pretty much it. Oh, and then I have all this stuff here on the subgroup. So as you see, these 3 tracks are going out through bus 22, and then they come in bus 22 here. So I have even more compression going on. With bass, I always compress the crap out of it because it can't go anywhere volume-wise, especially in these rock songs when you have to have that kick married to the bass guitar. Like, I really over-compress. Like, it might be too much, honestly, but I compress bass a lot because I like having that consistent bass level. And then I hit it with some EQ, just kind of lopping off the top and bottom. Kind of giving it more of that mid-range growly sound. I'm adding a bunch of output back. I don't know why my levels are so low, but like I said, this one's already been mastered, so it's too late now. I'm not going to change anything. Sorry, Sunwise. And then even more compression, it looks like. So none of these have a key input on them, do they? No, okay, good. Doesn't really seem like I'm doing much with this, other than boosting the gain a bunch. So it's probably just catching extreme stuff. Oh, here's a good trick. Okay. So, a lot of times with bass, I will add chorus, which not a lot of people probably do, but it's, I can't think of the guy's name. The guy who mixes System of a Down and all the other bands, and he just uses the SSL console and like a couple effects, and it always sounds amazing. George Wall, no, he's the... Jesus Christ, hold on. I have to look this up now. Because he's super famous. I think he did like a bunch of Linkin Park albums and a bunch of other crap like that too, but... come on. Don't fail me, Google. I know he's English. I want to say his name is George. He's an old dude. He looks like your grandpa. And he mixes fucking rock bands so well. Oh, he did a bunch of Rage Against the Machines early stuff too. Andy Wallace. Okay, I was mixing George. Okay. Yeah, his name's Andy Wallace. And I learned this like from a lot of his mix tutorials where he'll add like a little bit of chorus to the bass, just enough to it kind of gives it a little bit of a stereo thing going on, because that's what chorus does. It splits up the left and right tracks a bit, so you don't have a mono signal. But I just add like a slight amount, and I find it really helps with bass. So I mean, here I'll bypass it and put it back in. Like, it's super subtle, you can't really even hear it. And then I finished this all out with the old Sans amp plugin, which is, this thing's great. If you don't use this, you should totally use it every once in a while. And we're just adding a bunch of low end and some growl. You know, all these buzz, punch, crunch, all the buzzwords are here. But it's great for just, yeah, adding some nice low end feel, and that really rounds the sound out. So here at the end, I got this third track in here. It's just this, I don't think it's clipping, but it's definitely like compressed. Even when I add the other tracks back, it doesn't even like nearly overtake this one. It's just because this end of this song's so loud and it needed some push. Okay, you know Andy Wall, sweet. So yeah, here the bass part kind of takes over, like it's almost the melody at this point in the song. So I really wanted to push that forward, and we used that third bass track there. Use that third bass track to really get that thing out there in the mix. So yeah, that's that. So you got the bass and the drums here. And really, when you're mixing drums like this, with the bass guitar, it's just important to get the low end matching between the kick and the bass guitar. So yeah, that root note, that do on the downbeat, like that has to pound. Like you can't fucking let up on that. And these guys even, I think they drop down to like C tuning or whatever, like metal bands do. So they're definitely looking for that open fucking metal, well, not metal, I don't know what it is, but that big old rock open beat chord. So let's see what else we got going on here. What else can I show you? I don't know if I want to do this whole thing tonight, but I might want to, because as soon as I get done with this, I can start doing some more performance streams and all that, which I'm super excited about. Alright, so we got bass, drums. What's next? You want to look at this time. Here, let me turn all this crap off. There's some buzz I didn't catch. So I just wanted to turn, because I do have some effects going on here. So here's the delay. Seems like I just have a little bit of this. This is just some tape echo. I got some on the snare. Too. And then let's see, I got this, yeah, a little bit of reverb on everything. So it's the cathedral setup in here, so it's gonna be a long one. But I have the delay like all the way down, so I'm not. Yeah, I don't know what the hell it is. I'm assuming that just adds a lot of early reflections. It's in a cathedral setting, so that means it's gonna be a huge room. But then by turning the decay all the way down, you're just getting that, early reflection sound and not the big decay tail that usually accompanies a cathedral verb. And then I would mix all the way in. So it's a nice little reverb. Like I said, this track's pretty dry, so I wanted you to be able to hear everything I wanted. Like, I wanted it to punch when it needed to. So there's a lot of start and stop kind of things going on in this song. And this song's all about the rhythm section. So. Alright, and then I also have this dirty thing. So this was that same saturation plug we were using earlier on the snare. Just a cool, these are all just effect sends, so. Let's see, 23 through 20 through 30. So yeah, it looks like I'm just sending the drums to it here. Like, I'll turn them off. Let me start it again. Oh no. Oh, crashy McCrashersons. And okay, so another thing I was gonna announce is that this is probably the last time you're gonna see me using Pro Tools, because I'm officially moving to Reaper after this. Especially since I've been watching Monty do it over on the Scene of Action channel. He's been using Reaper successfully, and he's come from kind of the same situation I did, where I'm using Pro Tools for years and years. So I figure if he's happy with it, he's a bit demanding on his DAWs. I'll probably be pretty happy with it too. And actually, I asked a bunch of my audio engineer friends on Facebook, like, what would you recommend? A fair number of them came back with Reaper as the answer. So I've always used it like just for rewiring DA or VSTs into Pro Tools, but I've never actually like used it to actually go through and mix a whole song. But I was trying to mess with some things the other day, and it seems pretty straightforward. I already got like a couple tracks put down, like just some guitars that I soloed over each other and stuff, and it worked great. Didn't have to really configure anything with my sound card. Everything seemed to just work. So that's going to be the DAW du jour as we move forward, which is nice because it doesn't do shit like just crash in the middle of your stream. At least I hear. So let's open this guy back up. Let's see. Oh, we've already been going an hour and a half. Wow. That's good though. I like taking some time. Alright, hopefully this thing like actually loads the song. Otherwise this might be a two-parter. I could go over and play with all my new toys. Which I do have a lot of. Actually, I don't have new toys. They're just rearranged. Okay, it seems... Oh, there it goes. Alright. Thank goodness. I don't know why I left all these in touch mode. That's so bad. It's just asking for your tracks to get like screwed up. Alright, so we're back at it here. Oh, the good news is anything I messed up accidentally is back to its original state now. Alright, let's look at these guitars here. So one thing you'll notice right away, and I don't know if you caught it, but like the automation that I'm doing with the panning and all this stuff, I like messing around with guitar panning. Well, just panning in general. I like to get wide on choruses and then narrow things up for verses. And what it does is like, especially again with these songs that are a lot of start and stop, you know, heavy dependence on the rhythm section really hitting you on downbeats and stuff like that. This trick helps with that kind of thing. And I just kind of noticed it over time listening to just commercial mixes on the radio and stuff. Like, it took me a while, but I started noticing verses. They would always like It was mostly after the chorus coming back into the verse, I would just notice the mix would get a little bit narrow, and I was like, oh wow, that's how they do that. Like, oh snap, who's in chat? Oh, it's Jesus Swaggy. What's up, Swaggy? How you doing? It's good to see you. Good to have everybody here. This is awesome. So yeah, oh yeah, the wide thing. So that, yeah, you'll see right here, narrow, wide, and then it'll probably snap back to narrow. Yeah. So this is during the no drums. Then when the drums kick in, back out wide, and that really. Yeah, I'm glad you won those albums, Swaggy. That's cool as fuck. Like, it's cool to see your picture up on the Bandcamp. And I saw you, like, cashed in Vaudevillain's album, too. So, I'm sure Jeff and them really appreciate that. Because it's good to have those little squares under your Bandcamp thing. So here, let's go through the guitars track by track. So there's two guitarists in this band. Jan and Casey. So here's Jan's guitar. I believe this is the original track I got. So it looks like I took that and then what am I doing? So so I have the original track, and then that's going through some EQ. Here, we'll listen to that. Without the EQ, without the compressor, so. Yeah, I remember there was this high-mid thing I was not into at all. So I took out a bunch of that, and then a lot of times with guitars, I like to high-pass them fairly aggressively. Like this one's at 120. That's because, like, I don't know, I found this when I'm mixing guitars and bass in a rock band like this, I find a lot of my low end that I think is guitar is really bass. And that's how you really get, like, good low end guitars, is to have, like, a really well married bass to provide it. I don't know. So, oh yeah, a lot of times I aggressively high pass like that. Here, if you add the bass. It's kind of a bad example, actually. But, so we do that, get that high-mid weirdness out, because it's just too twangy, a little too harsh. Because I almost wanted like a bit of high, I actually did put a little bit high end in there too. And if you take this stuff away, it definitely clears up the high end for you. And then we just do a little bit of compression just to keep everything balanced and even, nothing tricky here. It's mostly when it goes down to that low part. Yeah, I see. And then we got it going, let's see, this is muted out. I think that's a reverb. This might be delay. And then we're going out of this headphones R track here. So it's pre-fader. So that means I'm basically just a duplicate track of this guy without any of the plugins and stuff, I believe. So I'm just kind of making more of a stereo sound. So I'm taking this one and adding a little bit of grit to it. It just kind of beefs up that guitar tone. Kind of some mid-range to it. And I think I did that to keep up with Casey's guitar here, because let me find a place where he gets on the distortion a bit. He plays lead a lot of the times, but or maybe not. thought he had like some chunky parts, but maybe not. So these guys I'm not even doing to subgroups, so it's just a bit of EQing. I mean, like I said, Bill recorded everything on this really well, so there's not a lot I had to do. It's not a lot of correcting I had to do. It's a lot of more just adding subtle stuff like saturation or distortion here in this case. Kind of filling things out and making everything sound big. So the fastest way to make things sound big are just like stack layers of shit on top of it. So that's what I did with this guitar. So in here, put that other guy in there. And now it's gonna stand back. And then, so here's Casey's guitar. We're just doing a little bit of EQ. Again, I'm high passing pretty aggressively, a little bit lower than the other one, but it's still up there. So let me take this off. Like this one sounds really good on its own. I really didn't have to do anything. It's just a little bit of EQ. Kind of taking some low end info out will make it stick out in the track a little bit more when you add all the kick and bass back in. But this is the nice part about like recording bands who have nice analog gears. A lot of times their tracks sound really good right off the bat. It's when you get like cheap ass gear, bad mics, and just everything sounds horrible. So yeah, here's my Stacko guitars. Put the bass back in too. See if I can show you like the panning. So yeah, so look at all the automation I do. It's one thing I've noticed as I mix more and more and more, like over the years, is one of the things that really sets apart great mixes from good mixes is just the commitment to automation. And I mean, anybody from EDM world will tell you that like it's necessary to do it because they do so much of it there, but you got to do it in your analog mixes as well. You don't just set your friggin' mixer and then walk across the room and hit record and you know everything's like the compressors aren't going to take care of all of it for you or whatever people seem to think. So like yeah, I have all this panning that's going on with these guitars that we'll listen to here. Pull these up a bit. So here it goes out wide. Come back in. It basically just does that a bunch of times. But you'll notice this one doesn't land in the same place. So I think for the verse, I actually have the Jan's guitar come out. Yeah, a little bit to the left from where it usually is. Because that's... So the reason I do that is because like I can keep the guitars in the middle when there's no vocal really going on. But as soon as that vocal comes in for the main verse, I'm trying to move the guitars a little bit out of the way so that vocal's what shines through. And then you go back to the chorus up here and they go back out wide again. And like I said, that really gives that effect of your chorus being big. So if you're doing this whole, you know, Pixies style soft loud songwriting, it's a trick you should learn. Back in. And then during this bridge they do some other panning. Oh yeah, this guy starts on the left and then it kind of comes in the center. So right, 2, 3, 4, so there. That's when the drums come back in. Now it's fully mono in the middle. Actually, it's not fully in the middle, but it's back to kind of where it was during the verse. Because I wanted this bridge to have a bit of a different feel. And then they kick right back out wide again for the chorus. It's basically a lot of that until you get to this end, and then Jan's guitar starts going into this crazy, like, feedback, well, not feedback, like kind of white noisy thing, and I just start making that dance through, going left to right, panning, kind of like weird Pink Floyd-y effect or whatever. And then I actually do the same thing with Casey's guitar, but it's the other like directions to counterbalance it. There we go here. Here they start crossing. See, I wanted that melody riff to be like over here. Now it's over here. So it plays on the right side, then it goes wow, then it plays on the left side, and then back again. So yeah, it's Casey's guitar that's doing that melody, and the whole time Jan's guitar just turns like a phaser on something else. This part. So if I just kept this on the left side, like it would have sounded really dumb when Casey's guitar came over to the left side, because everything would have just been on the left side. So I had to take this one and move it around too. And it's really good. It just makes cool 3D shit in your headphones, especially. And it's all at the end of the song, so you can be, kind of crazy at that point. And I think they finish out, all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So yeah, play with automation. It's important. And what's really important is automating your volumes, especially. Like, that's another Andy Wallace thing. He's notorious for doing that. Like, that's how he says he gets all his mixes without a lot of compressors or a lot of effects. It's all just him riding faders over and over and over again, making sure he gets every little part, to come out of that track that he's riding the fader on. Let's see, there's some tambourine in here, which is a super, super important part of this song. I don't even know if I did anything. Looks like I compressed a bit. You gotta have that tambo right in front of your mix. Oh, and then what you can always do with tambourines is it's just low pass the crap out of them, so you just get a bunch of high end, and it makes it sound like way more studio jingly. Here, let me find here. So if I take these away, see how it sounds more realistic and cheaper all of a sudden? Like, this is what a tambourine sounds like if it's in front of your face. But if you want it to sound like in the studio, put that mega low pass there. Now it's nice and jingly. And that's what people want to hear, is that high harmonics sound. And plus it helps it stick out in the mix a little bit too. They had me turn it down, which kind of sucks, but because I wanted more and more tambourine, obviously. Oh yeah, the vocals, those are important, I guess. So I should say right off the bat that I actually had, if I had my druthers, would have mixed the vocals of this song a bit louder, but we went through a few revisions and they ultimately wanted the vocals to be just a little bit buried in the mix, so you hear that a lot with bands. And then we went with the slap back delay on it too, which is another thing that will kind of, it doesn't like blur your vocal. I don't know what it does. It just does something to your vocal where it like makes it move back in the depth of field a bit. And singers really like that, especially the ones who want like low vocals in their mix. So yeah, there's the vocal. Here, let's loop it a bit. Jan, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't want to hear your vocals soloed, but it's a teaching moment, damn it. Alright, so as you can see, I have an ass ton of things going on here. I'm just gonna remove some of these that I'm not actually using. Okay. So here, let's see what this sounds like with none of these plugins. It'd be hilarious if it sounded exactly the same. Oh, it does not? Okay. So this is what I got. I'm not sure exactly what mic they recorded with. I don't know. It almost sounds a bit like a Dynamics mic. Maybe like an SM7B. I'm not sure what Bill has out there. But if he has a 7B, that's probably what he's using for vocals, because that's probably what I would use for vocals too, because it's a great vocal mic. But I don't notice like a lot of room noise or, you know, that open high end that you get with a large diaphragm condenser or a small diaphragm condenser. To say, you know, either one. Yeah, it sounds like a dynamic kind of cardioid closed off sound. So for the obvious and regrets a wasted time. The first thing you'll probably hear is the weird gains, which is actually something I do, because you'll kind of hear it jerking between the different volumes and stuff. But if you see this thing called show clip gain, you'll see this is where it's happening, is every time it's hit this automation stuff. So basically what this clip gain stuff is, I'm kind of doing that same concept in the vein of prepping for a compressor, except instead of compressing, I'm like manually setting the volume. So this is just basically a kind of a fader ride, but instead of the fader ride, it's using the actual Pro Tools gain setting that you usually get on this little handle right here. So before this feature was, before the clip gain line was here, they just had these overall clip gain faders you could do, and they were great because you could ride, you know, just a little specific part of the vocal up if you needed it or something without going through the hassle of setting automation and stuff. So they just took that to another level, and now you can set the clip gain through drawing like a line, and it'll follow what you're doing. So basically what I do is go through this entire let me see if I can bypass it. And alright, see how the waveform gets bigger like at certain spots? So literally what I went through is I just kind of go through and try to make the waveforms look even as I listen to it. And what this does is it preps it for that compressor, so when it hits my first compressor, that compressor doesn't have to work so hard, and everything's a lot smoother. The downside is you get that weird, that had to be made. You hear like those sharp edged, like it almost sounds like bad crossfades, but it's not. It's just the volume changing between the things. But that kind of goes away once you start adding all these effects and all that stuff. So I'm not really that worried about it when I hear it. So the first thing I did was add some de-essing. That had to be made. Hold on. The patient expresses concern. Yeah, there's a lot of S's in there. So this is without it. Expresses concern. This is with it. The patient expresses concern. So yeah, it just controls those S's a little bit. Nothing too crazy. So that would be definitely in the vein of, you know, corrective processing. And then I got this crazy ass EQ curve here. The patient expresses. Okay, so yeah, what I'm doing here is I just kind of like that radio-y, like old telephone style vocal, and and that's kind of where I pushed this vocal to. And so basically I liked a lot of this, high mid 2K range, and you can see I have a really wide range here, so I'm just getting a lot of high mids, and that's what will make that telephone sort of tone for you. And then because I didn't want to lose all the lows, I brought those up as well, so you can see that's a lot more narrow of a gain boost.
The patient
But without it, it's really loopy.
For the obvious.
So I wanted some of that chest, vocal sound to come in too. And you get that down there in the 200-ish range, or 150 as I have it here. Alright, and then so yeah, really I probably should have done that EQ after this compressor, but I didn't. And like I said, it's too late to change things, because that would definitely be like a character EQ. That's not a corrective EQ at all.
The patient expresses
so this is just a little bit of smooth compression,
for the obvious,
just bringing the vocal a bit closer to you.
Wasted time.
Then some more compression. This one's a little slower. Just kind of smoothing everything out, and then here's another compressor. And again, we're only doing like 3 dB. So I have like 9 dB of compression going on here, but all the compressors are working, just smoothly. They're not lopping off a whole bunch.
The patient express.
Plus you're getting 3 varieties of compressor. I don't know, because each one of these is going to add a little bit of character. Other than this one's really clean, the Pro Tools compressor, but this guy and this guy both add a little bit of character, so you're getting the character of both of those.
The patient expresses concern.
So there, we have a, kind of hyper high MIDI vocal that's pretty close to your face, lots of compression. That versus this.
The patient expresses.
So that's a lot of, lower mids, and it's a little bit, far away sounding.
The patient expresses.
So that's the first line of plugins here. And then we got some reverb.
The patient expresses concern.
I really caked it on there.
And regrets
and then we got some delay. Looks like just some quarter note. It's not a lot. It's only 10% mix.
At an inconvenient point.
And it looks like I'm compressing that too.
The patient
so what that's going to do is bring up those reverb tails a little bit longer and those delay tails. Yeah, you can hear it a little bit louder. With vocals, the compressor is just pushing stuff in your face all the time, basically. Everything sounds like smashed up against a window, in your headphones. Alright, then I got the slapback delay we talked about. I add that here.
The patient expresses.
And see how all of a sudden there's a little bit of depth to it again, even though it was so close up. So we only have that 35%. It's just a bit, but it's enough to be noticeable in the mix, See how so much stuff you lose between from going solo to adding everything in the mix, especially in the vocals. You really gotta that's part of the reason this vocal is so EQ'd aggressively like that. It's because it just gets buried once the mix comes in and all those guitars and bass and drums are there.
The patient.
Alright, then it looks like we sent it off to 27 and 29, which has that saturation and then some chorus. I love chorus on vocals because if you're ever out of tune or anything, just having a little bit of chorus really kind of blurs that a bit and makes your what could be out of tune vocal a little more in tune, because basically what chorus is doing, or at least what I do with my choruses on vocals, is the old harmonizer trick, and you take basically a vocal and then split it one copy of it left, one copy of it right, and then you take one of them and pitch it up, the other one you pitch down a little bit. So you're getting this spread where this one's a little sharp, this one's a little flat, and the one in the middle is where it was. And that way, if you hit a wrong note, like just a little bit sharp, then your low track will be hitting the right note, you know? So like something's hitting the right note, and that makes a difference. And I've seen like extreme examples of that, where they duplicate like 7 vocal tracks or something and like pitch them all just a little bit different. And it just makes this huge like chorusy wall of vocal. It's pretty cool sounding. So here, let me solo this again.
The patient expresses concern.
This is without chorus.
For the obvious.
This is with chorus.
And regrets a wasted time.
Without.
A decision that had to be made.
And then we'll do with.
And regrets a wasted time. A decision that had to be made. At an inconvenient point.
Oh, that's a text I didn't want to get. Holy shit. Apparently there's an animal loose in our house with no legs and a bitey face. I'll let you guess which one.
The patient expresses concern.
So yeah, that's what the chorus adds to the vocal there.
The
And just a little bit of volume too.
expresses concern for the obvious.
Alright, and then the last thing is we're just dirtying up the vocal a bit with that saturation plug-in there.
The patient
So this is without it.
expresses concern
Now it's on.
for the obvious and regrets a wasted time.
So yeah, it just gets kind of that dry, high, mid boost. So yeah, a lot of what I do with like all these plugins, it's just subtle stuff. Like you just keep layering, and you just kind of build. Like I'm not doing crazy drastic changes with everything. It's a lot of the same trick. It's just you take a track and then you find different ways to have the same track but a little bit something different. Like when I add the aux for this dirty one, what I'm getting is I'm just getting that same track but with a little bit of like distortion or saturation on it, and then it combines with this one. It just makes that, you know, that sound just a little bit bigger, and then you just do that with like 7 or 8 other different tricks, you know, chorus or like a little bit of reverb, and then like all of a sudden you'll have this big ass sound. You just gotta be careful putting the pieces together to not like have a ton of low end in each one of these tracks you build up. Otherwise you'll have too much low end or whatever. So that's why you gotta really be careful and correct your sounds before you add all this layering. Alright, and then the final trick I do with this, so you'll notice I have this headphones left send as well on the vocal. And this is probably my favorite new trick here. So if you come over on the master fader here, I have a compressor that's side chaining. And no, this isn't the same side, well, it is the same kind of side chain I guess you do in dance music, but it's a way different concept. Not every side chain makes your like song go or whatever the fuck they do. This is just a really subtle side chain. So basically my vocal track is triggering this compressor that's compressing my master fader. So it's actually compressing, you know, the vocal's part of the master mix, so it's kind of compressing itself a little bit. But what it does is a lot of times you can't hear a vocal because something in the band mix, like a guitar or a drum, will get just a little bit too loud while the vocal's singing, and it'll bury that vocal. So what this does is it prevents that from happening, basically, because once the vocal starts singing, the whole master compressor like comes down to the volume of the vocal, so nothing can really escape that volume range, and you end up like just there's a ceiling, and you end up with a vocal you can always hear. And this is probably like my favorite new little trick to do. And you don't want a lot of compression because it's really noticeable right away. So I only like have like 1 or 2 dB. listen to the guitars and the drums, you can hear it. See, they'll come back out very full, and they suck in a little bit during the vocal. And then they get a little bit bigger when the singing's not happening. And you'll also hear the mix narrow just a tiny bit, like when the singing is happening. And that's because of this compressor here. So that's something you can do with sidechain compression that doesn't involve kick drums, which is always refreshing in this dance kick drum world we live in. Because yeah, the sidechain's it's super useful for all these utility tasks like that. So I definitely wanted to share this trick because I really think it helps. Here, we'll listen without it and see if the vocal might just be a little more blurry. So that's with it out, and this was with it in. Yeah, I think like on that obvious, it kind of, you can hear it a little bit more. But yeah, it's super subtle. Again, like probably wouldn't make so much of a difference even if this wasn't in there. But so I do that as my first compressor because I don't want that to be after all the other compression that's going to happen. So I mean, we might as well do the master bus stuff while we're here. So I hit that compressor for the vocal, or that triggers off the vocal. And then this is just a slow compressor that barely, takes anything off. Just kind of smoothing stuff out. And then I'm really gentle with my master EQing. Just like a little bit of extra low end. A little extra low end at 100 there. I pull out a little bit of 200. Or actually I don't. That's not even activated right now. Pulling out a little bit of 1K because I think I looked at my metering and my 1K was pretty high in this song. And then, yeah, just adding a little bit of sparkle in the high ends. It's actually more like high mid. It's not even sparkle. But yeah, as you can see, like I don't have anything even close to like being over 3 dB on my master track EQ. I'm really careful with that. And then I had one instance of Maxim that I've bypassed because I ended up not using it there. Alright, and then I got some more EQ. Yeah, now that I said I was gentle with EQ, I'm going to have all these crazy EQs in here probably. So it looks like I was taking out a bunch of like 300 for some reason. Sounds better with it in for sure. Alright, and then we're adding a little bit of saturation. I like this one for like high mid saturation. It's more of a high mid boost than it is a saturator. It's definitely a boost. That's one problem with this plugin is there's no input and output volumes, so you can't AB it. You can't really AB it well because it just boosts you up like 3 dB right away. Yeah, it really brings out the high mids, and then a little bit more EQing and just kind of making some high end, low end boosts. And then finally I hit Maxim, which is my limiter that boosts everything up to, commercial volume. As you can see, it's like way quiet right now. But I'm not really doing any compression on it. I'm sure I do in louder parts probably. So yeah, I'm really not trying to, I probably just have this here so, well, one reason I use these limiters is because I don't want anything to clip in my master bus, so I set the ceiling to -0.1, and that way nothing will, because it's 100% wet, so nothing will make it through that ceiling, which guarantees no clipping. And then this threshold just kind of brings up the volume to, an adequate level. So, yeah, I guess the only other stuff we have to do or look at are these vocals on the chorus. So I stacked some. I really wanted these vocals to stick out, so I stacked them up. And I wanted them to sound different than the verse vocal. That's another thing I'm a stickler for, is like, like don't have the same friggin' vocal sound through the same, like the whole song. Like switch your shit up for different parts of the songs. Like the most easy thing to do is a verse sound and then a chorus sound. That's what I do here. I mean, you don't have to like do crazy shit, but like you can have like a different sound for the bridge. You can have a different sound for like one verse versus the other. And a lot of songs, like my own songs, especially on the new EP, I'll have like just a different vocal sound for like each part or whatever. Like all of some sounds sounds like I'm going through like a megaphone type thing, stuff like that. So I really like that. I think that really it's another thing that sets your mix apart if you're really directing the listener to these different scenes. Like I always bring these analogies to movie directing being the same as music mixing, because they make sense. Like you need your star of every scene. You have to figure out what that is. Most of the time it's the vocal, but the vocal will go away and then you'll have like a lead guitar come in, and that's where you need to shine like the light. And by that I mean turn the volume up on whatever that is, or make it sound the best, or add the cool effect for the moment there, stuff like that. So doing these different vocal sounds throughout the song can really help shine the lights where they need to go. So here, let's listen to this stack of vocals here.
Don't freak me out.
I remember I did a lot of editing on, like I don't do any like auto-tuning or anything, but a lot of times what I'll do is edit rhythms, just warp editing basically. So yeah, if you look in the warp here, I made these all.
Don't freak me out.
So they sound much closer than they did before as far as where the starts and the stops are and where the syllables come in rhythmically.
Don't freak me out.
Because the goal is to get like 3 vocals but have them sound like one voice, kinda.
Don't freak me out this time.
I mean, when you solo it out like this, it's kind of easy to tell.
When fleeing down.
They're different tracks, but hold on, like if I...
When fleeing down.
With all the other stuff in, it's a little bit harder to tell, and it kind of sounds like one voice, but like one big voice, which is cool for the chorus, because you want, that vocal that really hits you in the chorus.
When fleeing down.
So I got those all, rhythmically aligned and all that. And then, let's see, so I have that same headphone send that sends it to that compressor on the master bus. So we're doing the same trick with the vocals in the chorus. And it looks like I'm sending to 23, 25, 27, 29. So that's all of these effects down here. So I'm just basically...
This time.
I mean, you can hear the reverb and all that. So here's those dry.
This time.
And I'm not really even doing any EQing or anything like that, because these vocals all seem to sound pretty good right off the bat.
This time.
So that's dry. Here's with the delay.
This time.
Here's with the the reverb.
This time.
Here's the chorus.
This time.
And then finally the saturation.
This time.
And that's how I get that sound. I mean, it's nice and dry and short. There's a little bit of reverb, but it's mostly dry.
This time.
And it really punches through
This time.
when it needs to. So. sample of the automation. So that guitar, I brought it up, a lot for that one part where there was no vocal. And look, it sucks down a lot right here. So I really wanted that vocal part to come out there. It comes back up, so I'm constantly moving all these tracks. Just subtle mixing changes with the volume. And that's what I mean by the whole, shining the light on what needs it and what's the star of the mix at that certain point. So if you dig this track, you can go listen to it on Sunwise's Bandcamp, which is at sunwise1.bandcamp.com. It's the only track they currently have out, so it'll be easy to find. So I also mastered it too. So here, I'll let it play a little bit. This is the mastered version. I'm gonna let this play for a minute. I'm gonna go grab another beer. I'll be right back. So there you go. Mixed and mastered. McGarnagle. And yeah, check out Sunwise. Like I said, they're awesome. They'll have some more stuff coming to you shortly, I'm sure. I think they're already writing a bunch and recording a bunch, so I'm excited for them to release whatever they release next. So that's that for Pro Tools, I think. Like I said, I'm going to make the switch to Reaper. I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited about some other stuff. So I showed some people, I don't know who was here in the beginning of the stream, but my new toys, or I rearranged my entire studio down here. So here's what it looks like at the moment. And this is my new live performance space that I'm going to do. Oh, hey. There's way too much me. There's another cam of it. So the cool thing about this is I control all these lights. So, hold on. So basically I have this program here. It's called QLC, which is a Q light controller. Oh, it's QLC Plus, actually. But I have some concert lights and some Christmas lights that I've hooked up to like DMX concert lighting dimmers, which is another, actually that'll probably be my next how-to that I want to do, is basically show you guys how to do this stuff, because it's really fun. It could probably help a lot of streamers too that want to have like a little bit more you know, kind of concert lighting on their streams. Like I see a lot of the DJs do it with like sound activated lights and stuff like that, but if you really want to get into it and like do it how the pros do it, that's what I'm doing here. And so here's this is basically just like a lighting console, except all digital and software. So you'll see like this is your grand master fader over here, it's always up, and then you'll see all these like RGBs and stuff, and that's because I have one of my lighting fixtures. It's I kind of want to set up another camera really quick, but it has 8 LEDs in it, and they're tri-wash color LEDs. So for each LED, you get a red, a green, and a blue, and you can mix the colors. So what this does is, and I have these grouped faders down here, and this works kind of like the same as an audio console, where like I can turn up the blue, and it turns up every blue fader. And then my light also has like an output on it, which like a master fader for itself. That's what I'm changing right here. So I need to like split screen this, but let me put on this view again. So I have that blue all the way up, and now I just turn the output all the way down, and now I'm putting it all the way up. See, everything got all crazy blue. So like, and then here I'll turn the white lights in the background, turn these up. So I have all these crazy lights that I get to mess with. And I also have like these lights in the ceiling too. Like I just turned up red ones that you probably can't see. The problem is that one LED light is super bright. It outshines all the other ones. Like here, I'll turn those off. Alright, so here's just the red Christmas lights in the ceiling. This is off and then on. I also have my regular lights on. Like just my regular room lights that I won't have on, so it's not as bright. But well, let me flip to the other camera. Yeah, you can't really see the ceiling ones. But here, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna grab my webcam, point it over there real quick. So here's my ceiling. I made a like PVC pipe truss thing, and I hung out a ton of Christmas lights in it. So there's a bunch of red ones, and then I turn these down, and then I also got blue in there, although you can't really see them right now. And I'm controlling these all from software. And then here's like that blue from, oh, there's that light. You can see it on the ground. It's that little bar thing. That thing's super bright. So here, I'll turn the green fader up. You can see that, and like the red. And it does crazy shit. Like you can like strobe light. Oh, I'm killing my stream. What the heck? I don't know why this thing dies when I do that. Or has my stream just been down forever?